Well, here we are, trailer time. So this is a quick trailer on all the things that I am planning on putting together here with this new passion project of mine. So what I'm planning on releasing here is a multi-part project, and I'm going to lay this out for you in some of the pieces, and there's a lot more things that I hope this grows into in the future. So what is it? This first part is going to be the beginning of this journey is going to be me researching motivation and what that looks like and how that differs from person to person. In the beginning, I'm going to share my story and kind of what got me on this road and on this path. But I soon will be looking into a whole bunch of different people's stories on what motivates them. Really, what I want to nail it down to is what is the difference between someone like me who gets out of bed at 3:30 in the morning to power lift versus someone who gets up at or stays up late to go on a 10-mile run, or someone who spends 18 hours a day building a business, or even a mom who just knows she needs to get out of bed to make breakfast and lunch for her children. I want to see what motivates people. I want to see what that builds into. And I want to tear that all the way down, even if I have to go and read some neuroscience books and figure out how to light that fire for someone else. Part two is I want to coach and share this information. And that's kind of why I want to put this out there. So part two is coaching, sharing this information to help people take that next step. I know there's been points in my life where I've needed that push, and there's people in my life who need that push, and I'm willing and want to share all this with them to get them there. I do have several certifications that might help, and again, I'll share more detail with that as I move forward and cross some T's and dot some I's there. But this all kind of boils down to I started my doctorate in education, and seeing how that is framed out and seeing the way that that is developed and grown, I kind of want to do my own thing. I want to study the things I'm interested in and not just read educational journals to nauseum. I want to talk to people. I want to read stories. I want to read books. I want to break down into neuroscience, and I'll nerd out and read some of those educational texts as well. But I'll be able to break it up by having conversations. Um, why? I've been through a lot. I haven't been through the worst life that I've heard from other people, but I've been through my ups and downs in my 34 years, and I want to see what makes me tick, but I also want to see what gets other people fired up and going. I've had depression. I've had the highs of life of competition in different events. I've had extremely stressful and tough decisions to make. And again, I want to see what information I can learn now, if I could go back to help me in those times, or something that I could share with my father when he was ill, or something that I could share with somebody else. I want to take that information and put that out there. Most of this is going to be shared on social media. I'm also going to start a new podcast, which I'll get to in a second here, kind of to keep this journey alive, to keep this fueled, but also to be accountable. I want to be able to hold myself to the flame of putting out a new podcast episode every Tuesday to keep pushing me forward. Um, I'm not a big procrastinator, but we all have our bad habits. So having a podcast episode to drop every Tuesday about this topic has me really excited to put out some great content. I plan on offering advice and motivation to support any one person any one way. But at the end of the day, this journey is for me to find out more about myself. And again, if it turns into me offering a gift to somebody else of here's a step you can take, I'm all about it. I've talked a little bit about how I'm going to do it. Again, this is kind of a multi-part plan, but part one is starting with this podcast. It's starting with the research, and it's starting with I have the plan of about 7 episodes of the podcast, which are really self-reflection, and then after that, it's fueled by reading books, talking to people, and finding out what gets people fired up. Those documentaries about people's life stories and what gets them fired up, those are awesome, and I really enjoy those. If that's what this turns into, great. My plans are centered around starting the podcast January 2nd, and it is called, and if you want to follow it now, there's some light things on there just to kind of keep its place. This new podcast starting January 2nd. I'm going to drop every Tuesday. It is titled Dragons and Demons, Real Motivation. I'll explain why in those first few episodes, but at the end of the day, every person needs a dragon to chase. You need something to keep you getting out of bed every morning, and something to run away from sometimes is the demons. There are a lot of different ways to motivate people. and I'm going to find those ways. Please come along for the journey. There are several parts to this, and I'll release them as we go, but this first one, the podcast, Dragons and Demons, Real Motivation. Look forward to hearing your feedback. A lot more on this to come. January 2nd, everywhere you can find podcasts. Come and listen.